On the news tonight, IPOB leader Nnamdi Kanu to remain in DSS custody, appeal court rules. Ebonyi State Governor David Umahi to remain governor as appeal court voids judgment sacking him for defecting to the APC. Well, many thanks for joining us on News Now. I am Folashade Ogorinde. Well, we resume this bulletin tonight starting with the story that the Court of Appeal on Friday upheld the federal government's application for stay of execution of the October 13 judgment which set Nnamdi Kanu free. Justice Haruna Tsesamani also ordered that the result of the ruling be forwarded to the Supreme Court within 7 days for expeditious hearing. This means Kanu is expected to remain in the custody of the Department of State Services pending when the Supreme Court hears the case. Kanu has been in detention since he was brought back from Kenya on June 19, 2021. The Court of Appeal in Abuja has overturned the judgment which sacked David Umahi as governor of Ebonyi State. The appellate court, in a unanimous decision by a three-man panel led by Justice Haruna Tsesamani, held that there is no constitutional provision for the removal of a serving governor or deputy governor that dumped the political party that sponsored them to power. The judge, in his lead judgment, said the sole recourse available to a political party aggrieved by the defection of a governor or deputy governor is to explore the constitutional provision of impeachment. On March 8, Inyang Ekwo, judge of a federal high court in Abuja, held that the 393,042 votes polled by Umahi in the March 2019 governorship election belong to the PDP and cannot be legally transferred to the APC. Consequently, Ekwo ordered the PDP to present another candidate, or in the alternative, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, should conduct a fresh poll within 90 days. Well, to speak more on these developments, legal expert Evan Tufeli joins me now. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, we had two remarkable judgments from the appeal court today, but let's begin with the decision of the Court of Appeal to uphold the federal government's application for stay of execution of the October 13 judgment, which set Nnamdi Kanu free. What do you make of this?
Well, you know that the Court of Appeal recently quashed the 15-count charges. That is the 7-count charge that was remaining after the Court of First Instance, the Federal High Court in Abuja, had first quashed the 8-count charges. Now, ordinarily, it was expected that having quashed the 15-count charges, Kanu was supposed to be discharged, okay? But the federal government now filed what you call a motion to stay execution of that judgment. And then today, the motion to stay execution of that judgment was granted, pending the determination of the substantive suits which have been filed at the Supreme Court. And the Court of Appeal have also given the federal government 7 days within which to transmit record to the Court of Appeal so that the appeal of the federal government can be heard by the Supreme Court. The implication of this is that Nnamdi Kanu will still remain in the custody of the federal government until the determination of the substantive suit by the Supreme Court. But the only part that is not that has not gone down well to some of us who argue legally is that as at the point Nnamdi Kanu, as at the point the Supreme Court discharged him of the 15-count charges, he ought to have been released at that time. It was wrong for the federal government to still keep him in detention pending what they intend to do next. Like the Attorney General of the Federation said, that he will remain in custody. The federal government is thinking on what to do. That was actually wrong. But thankfully, they have been able to put forth their motion to stay execution of that judgment. And same has been granted today. So what it automatically means is that Nnamdi Kanu will still be in the custody of the federal government pending the determination suit by the Supreme Court to determine his fate.
Now the course is of course clear for the Ebonyi State Governor and his deputy, but can we say this judgment has made clear the argument on defection and transfer of votes?
Yeah, you know that of a governor. When a governor defects from one political party to another, it is not provided for in the Constitution as an infraction. Unlike a lawmaker, if a lawmaker defects from one political party to the other, the law says they can do that, but they can only do that under certain circumstances where they can show that there is animosity, there is crisis in their current party, such that the party is unable to function. In such case, they can defect, even though many of them have abused that power. But as to the executive, there is no point in the law whatsoever, even though it is argued the Supreme Court have plethora of judgment that says that it is the party that contests election and not the candidate. Now, David Umahi sometimes ago defected from the People's Democratic Party to APC. Now, when he defected to that party, they brought an action against him to say that him and his deputy, that having defected from the PDP, that seat should be vacant. The Court of First Instance gave judgment that he should cease to be governor. Him and his deputy should cease to be governor, and that the PDP can field in any other candidate. And then what happened thereafter is that they went on appeal. That is, Umahi went on appeal, and the appeal court just gave the judgment today, stating that there is nowhere in the Constitution where the law made express or implied provision to punish a governor, a member of the executive, who defect from one political party to the other. Perhaps it negates the argument that it is political parties actually that contest elections and not the person, because ordinarily, if the fact is well established that it is political party that contests election and not the candidate, it stands to reason that if a candidate defects, because if a political party has won an election, okay, that vote that the political party had cannot be transferable to another political party. So by the time a person defects, ordinarily his defection should mean his seat should be declared vacant. But the only omission, the lacuna that exists there is that there's no express provision in the Constitution, okay, that says when you defect, you lose your seat. And the principle of law is that once there is a law or that case law or whatsoever that is contrary to the provision of the Constitution is supreme, and this provision shall have a binding force on all persons and authorities.
Well, but I'm sorry to interrupt you, Evans, but we have to leave it there for now. But legal expert Evans Ofeli, thank you very much for your time and your contribution. With pre-election violence now an increasingly regularity in Nigeria's electoral process, the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) has described the effective enforcement of the electoral law as the best way to deal with the menace. INEC Chairman Mahmood Yakubu further disclosed that the reported attacks amongst political parties at campaigns and denial of access to public facilities for electioneering activities call for precaution ahead of the elections. Yakubu spoke at the third quarterly meeting of the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security in Abuja on Friday, added that while vote buying remains a concern, there must also be decisive action against negative mobilization, incitement and violence during the campaigns. On his part, the National Security Advisor, Major General Mohammed Babagana Monguno, says security agencies are strategizing on new measures to counter the rising wave of violence in the polity.
I reassured Nigerians of our commitment to credible elections supported by technology. Voters will be accredited by means of the bimodal voter accreditation system. There will be no incident form. Results will be transmitted to the IREC result viewing portal in real time on election day. You may recall that the Commission had repeatedly assured Nigerians that our process of cleaning up the register is robust. After a rigorous cleaning up of the data using the automated biometric identification system, which is an improvement on the old method of automatic fingerprint identification system, a total of 2,780,756 records. That is 22.6% of the total of 11.2 million were identified as ineligible registrants and invalidated. In some cases, some of them made as many as 40 attempts or more to register one fake voter, yet were able to detect these malicious, fictitious registrations. As a result, the Commission has so far identified 23 registration officers involved in this unethical conduct, and disciplinary action has commenced.
A socio-political group has staged a peaceful protest in Abuja against what it called high-handedness and political intolerance by Ebonyi State Governor Dave Umahi. The group displaying placards with different inscriptions alleged that the state security outfit Ebubeagụ is being used by the government to abuse, intimidate, terrorize and clamp down on opposition parties in the state. The protesters allege that social activities, including church services, are banned by the state government in some areas based on political reasons, while no political gathering is allowed by the Ebubeagụ militia on the instruction of the state government.
The Ebubeagụ militia group that is established by the governor of the state, David Umahi, has constituted itself to commit all manner of random crimes, especially against opposition political parties in Ebonyi State. Today, no other political party apart from that of the governor is allowed to hold public processions. They can't campaign. Communities cannot hold even social gatherings. In Ebonyi State today, social gatherings are banned. A particular local government, Onitsha local government, no church, no school activities, no football matches, because one man wants to control the levers of power in the state. In Ebonyi State today, anybody that is perceived to be against the government in any form is hounded, especially with the Ebubeagụ security, arrested, abducted, tortured.
We are no more comfortable. Our husbands, our wives, our children are no longer safe in the hand of Ebubeagụ in Ebonyi State. That's why we have come to say that the Inspector General of Police should help us to disband it.
The Public Complaints Commission and other social and economic institutions must live up to expectations to check systemic and institutional fraud being perpetrated by those in privileged positions. Human rights activist Chidi Odinkalu said this in Abuja at the Social Justice Conference by the Public Administrative and Social Development Consult in collaboration with the Public Complaints Commission. Speakers at the event said the recent flooding across the country with its attendant strategy provides an opportunity for the Public Complaints Commission to demand answers on how the ecological fund was managed across the states of the Federation. They said respect for the rule of law, enforcement of court judgments, and equal access to opportunities are key parameters for a better society.
The issue of the work of the Public Complaints Commission should spread into areas that we have not taken time to review. For instance, there are some of the Nigerian soldiers who died who did not have to die. And the question is, where is the funds that was set aside for arms and ammunition? Where are those monies located? When we have a security budget that continues to escalate, but we do not have a commensurate security in terms of the spend, then we must ask the question where those monies are going. The moment you accept a country where the leaders are those who lead by breaking the law rather than in compliance, then you're going to have a problem.
At the end of this conference, we're able to see a better Nigeria, a better society, where these four principles can be lived to its fullest. Where I, as a citizen, not recognizing my position, my levels of my status in the country, can attain or access or participate and be fairly treated equitably as a citizen.
Like the issue of flooding, so many people are affected. The situation, the IDP camps are bursting over. The conditions are terrible. So the Public Complaints Commission is definitely going to look into it and begin to follow these funds to know exactly how they are executed, so that even the weak, now the flooding has affected both the rich and the poor. So the issue of justice has come to the fore.
As part of its contribution to improve Nigeria's maritime security and economic development, the People's Republic of China has donated a 46 meters patrol vessel and other military items to the Nigerian Navy. The equipment arrived in the country in October 2022 and was officially handed over to the Nigerian Navy on Friday, October 28, at the Nigerian Navy Ship Beecroft Naval Base in Apapa, Lagos. The Chinese ambassador to Nigeria urged both countries to work together to achieve their military goals. Our correspondent, Simi Saladigun, has the details in this report.
As a resource provider and key contributor to economic growth and development, the various threats to Nigeria's maritime security have called for concerns. To enhance the global economy as well as tackle the challenges bedeviling Nigeria's maritime space, the Chinese government has donated this 46 meters patrol vessel and other military equipment to help combat maritime insecurity. Speaking at the official handover of the equipment, the Chinese ambassador to Nigeria, Qiu Jianchun, expressed optimism that the equipment will further boost economic operations between both countries as well as strengthen bilateral relationship.
There is a potential, there is a possibility, the two sides, we can work together to produce our military equipment in Nigeria. Made in Nigeria with China. The last is about the foreign aid. Today is a very good example. China donate our patrol vessel or boat to Nigeria side. So we would like to expand the cooperation. I ask my senior colonel, please do your best to bring more resources to Nigeria. Nigeria is the most important countries, not only in Africa, but also in the whole world.
According to the Nigerian military, the donation marks Nigeria's bilateral achievements, adding that the equipment will further enhance Nigeria's naval presence in ensuring maritime security.
The Chief of Army Staff sincerely thank the government of the People's Republic of China for this great assistance to the Nigerian Army. The donation of the equipment will certainly go a long way in assisting the Nigerian Army in its efforts to combat security challenges in the country.
I am delighted that today's donation of this 46-meter patrol vessel to the Nigerian Navy marks another milestone in the bilateral collaboration between our two countries and also attests to the People's Republic of China's willingness and resilience to ensure a safe and secure maritime environment for socio-economic activities to thrive in Nigeria and beyond.
Given their remarks, Minister of Defense Bashir Magashi and the Minister of Foreign Affairs Geoffrey Onyema expressed appreciation to the Chinese government for the kind gesture. They assured that the equipment will be adequately employed to achieve its purpose.
On behalf of the federal government of Nigeria, I sincerely appreciate the kind gesture and support extended to the armed forces of Nigeria by the government of the People's Republic of China. I accept the military equipment as well as a patrol vessel. And I further assure you that they will be deployed to enhance the operational effectiveness of the armed forces for improved security.
Nigeria-China relationship is a win-win relationship based on mutual trust, mutual respect, and cooperation. And this, the government of Nigeria is committed to ensuring that we grow the trust between Nigeria and China.
The handover documents for the vessel and equipment were signed and officially handed over to Nigeria's military officials. Simisola Adigun, TV360, Lagos.
Well, we'll take a break here, but still to come, U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's husband violently assaulted after breaking. Details of the story and more right after this break. Welcome back. Now here is a recap of some of our top stories tonight. The Court of Appeal on Friday upheld the federal government's application for stay of execution of the October 13 judgment which set Nnamdi Kanu free. Justice Haruna Tessamani also ordered that the result of the ruling be forwarded to the Supreme Court within 7 days for expeditious hearing. We also told you that the Court of Appeal in Abuja has overturned a judgment which sacked David Umahi as governor of Ebonyi State. The appellate court, in a unanimous decision by a three-man panel led by Justice Haruna Tessamani, held that there is no constitutional provision for the removal of a seventh governor or deputy governor that dumped the political party that sponsored them to power. But in case you missed any of our news bulletin or for more updates, do log on to our website on www.tv360nigeria.com. You can also follow us on our social media platforms on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube and Google Plus at TV360 Nigeria. On Facebook, we are TV360 Online. Italian doctors and nurses suspended from work because they are not vaccinated against COVID-19 will soon be reinstated, authorities announced on Friday. According to the nation's new health minister, the move is motivated by a worrying shortage of medical personnel together with declining cases of COVID-19. Yet that the new government will also cancel fines imposed on all people aged over 50 who had not got vaccinated. Italy has been one of the world's hardest hit by the pandemic with almost 179,000 deaths, according to figures by the World Health Organization. We'll take a breather here and return with more stories and business. Just stay with us. Welcome back. Let's now join Mary Kanu for more stories and business. Over to you, Mary.
Thank you, Folashade. Welcome to Business News. 48 hours after the announcement of Naira redesign fixed for December 15th, 2022 by the Central Bank of Nigeria, the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, has disowned the policy. The minister, who commented on the policy in response to questions raised by Senator Kweyemi Bamidele during the 2023 budget defense session, she had with the Senate Committee on Finance warned the CBN of consequences that may arise from it. Senator Bamidele had told the finance minister that barely 2 days after announcement of the policy by the CBN, repercussions of aid on the value of Naira to the US dollar was being felt. The CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele had on Wednesday said that the Apex Bank will redesign the country's currency from 200 Naira denomination to 1,000 Naira notes.
This policy of the CBN, upon its announcement, and the desire of those who actually had this Naira stacked in their domain, now trying to quickly buy dollar to ensure that they are still able to hold on to their money. Part of the immediate effect on that is that dollar is going up. In the black market, we're told as of yesterday, dollar was exchanging for 788 naira to $1 US. So, Honorable Minister, what do you think? One, as to the timing of this CBN policy, and two, as to whether or not this is something that needs to be done at this point in view of the challenges that we already have and which appear to be getting compounded by this policy.
That really you should call the monetary authorities because they're the competent authority to do this. We were not consulted. It was an announcement that we heard. And I've seen,
you too, you just saw the press release like every other party.
Part of the reasons that was advocated is that's one of the ways to mop up liquidity to manage inflation. But there are also consequences that we're also looking at. What would the consequences be? There will be some benefits, but there will be some challenges. And I don't know whether the monetary authorities have actually looked very closely as what the consequences are and then how they can be mitigated. So I still advise that you have that discussion with the monetary authority. Yeah. First of all, as a fiscal authority, we were not aware of it. It was an announcement. Secondly, I think that's one of the ways that they're trying to use to manage inflation. But there are consequences that also need to be considered and how to manage those consequences.
We'll take a break now and return with stock market report. The Nigerian Exchange Limited witnessed a 1.60% contraction for the second time this week following sell-off activities in the industrial goods sector to close the week with a bear maintaining dominance. This moderated the all-share index as it dropped to the 43,000 level and eased the market capitalization by 4 billion naira to 23.9 trillion naira. Now, thanks to the bearish outcome, market breadth also ended negative with 18 price losers and 16 price gainers, indicating weak investor sentiment. Dangote Cement was the worst performing equity as its value went down by 10% to 220 naira 50 kobo per share. While today's statistics is far from what was expected, yet investors remain hopeful for bullish trades to run through the rest of the year. Let's now see how some select global stocks are faring. Well, despite a tumble in Amazon shares after economic data pointed to slowing inflation, the Dow Jones is trading up at 2.23%. Well, that's the stock market report. For Lashade, back to you.
Well, many thanks, Mary, for that update. And on the foreign scene, the husband of United States House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has been violently assaulted in their home in San Francisco, a officer said. The suspect, who has not been named, is in custody, but the motive for the attack is unclear. Pelosi was not at the San Francisco residence when the incident took place on Friday morning. Pelosi is one of the most powerful politicians in the country. She was re-elected to a fourth term as Speaker of the House of Representatives in 2021, making her second in line to the presidency after Vice President Kamala Harris. In sports, Napoli director Cristiano Giuntoli has ruled out transfer speculation surrounding Super Eagles striker Victor Osimhen and Cristiano Ronaldo. There have been talks linking Osimhen away from Italy to English Premier League side Manchester United, with Cristiano Ronaldo tipped to move to Napoli. According to reports, Giuntoli said the club is not thinking about the transfer market, and either there was no suggestion that Napoli wanted to sell Osimhen to an English side in January. And that's the size of our news bulletin. Many thanks for watching. I am Folashade Ogorinde. Bye for now.